It's poppin'.
Let's do this, guys.
It's Mr. Creighton.
And Mrs. Klein, we're here for your Chapter 8, Lesson 3 podcast entitled Samurai and Shoguns. So, you guys, in Lesson 1, although an emperor ruled Japan, noble families often held the real power. In this lesson, you're going to learn how the nobles fought each other to gain even more power. Okay, as always, we've got vocabulary terms. There are actually a decent number of them, 5 this go around, so you're going to want to make sure that you are familiar with these words. They are daimyo, samurai, vassal, shogun, and Tokugawa shogunate. And when you hear this sound, you know you've heard a vocabulary word.
Just a reminder, you've got a big idea and a few essential questions. The big idea, new civilizations are an evolution of previous civilizations. And the first essential question, what makes an idea everlasting?
All right, second is what contributes to the advancement of civilizations?
And our final essential question, how do internal conflicts affect civilizations? All right, the first topic we'll be talking about, nobles gain power. You can find this on pages 267 and 268. The question we want you to think about, how did Japanese nobles gain power? Japan remained strong and united for some time after Prince Shotoku's rule ended. By the 800s, the Fujiwara family had become the real rulers of Japan. The emperor had little power. The Fujiwaras ruled for 300 years.
In the 1100s, the power of the central government and the Fujiwara family weakened. The government began to run out of money. It also began to lose control over large landholders. As the central government grew weaker, noble families gained power. These large landowners, called daimyo, refused to pay taxes to the government. They had their own private armies of trained warriors called samurai. Each daimyo hired a samurai to protect their own lands. They also attacked other daimyo armies. The daimyo wanted to gain more land to increase their wealth and power.
Order began to break down in society as the central government lost power. More robberies, murders, and lawbreaking occurred. Small landowners did not feel safe. They wanted protection. They looked for a more powerful lord or large landowner for protection. They agreed to be loyal to this lord and serve in his army in exchange for his protection. A person who gets land and protection from a lord in return for loyalty is called a vassal. This new system of local rule increased the power of the daimyo. It marked the start in Japan of feudalism, a system of local rule similar to that in ancient China and medieval Europe. The question you guys should be thinking about and able to answer right now, why did power shift from the central government to the nobles?
All right, the second section in this lesson is the rise of a military society. You can find this information on pages 268 and 269 in your book. Be thinking of this question as you listen on. How did Japan become a military society? The daimyo gained and held power with the help of their armies. The result was that Japan had a military society for many centuries. Warriors were a key part of this society. Samurai warriors lived by a code of honor called bushido. They were expected to be loyal and brave. They were also expected to fight for their lord, even if it meant that they could not protect their own families. The lord was even more important than their own families were.
Yeah.
Zen Buddhism was an important part of their lives.
Women had higher standing in society at this time than at other times. Women in warrior families learned to fight with weapons to protect their families from robbers when the men were away fighting.
The emperor remained in office while the nobles fought among themselves, but he had no real power. Military leaders called shoguns controlled the government and ruled the country. Shogun meant supreme commander of the army. Minamoto Yoritomo became the first shogun in 1192. Japan remained under a shogunate, or military government, for nearly 700 years. I want to pronounce his name right, you guys. It's Yoritomo, not Yorimoto. Sorry. Okay, so Japan remained under a shogunate, or military government, for nearly 700 years. All right, you should be able to answer this question now. How did Japan change when Minamoto Yoritomo came to power?
All right, our last section is 3 powerful warriors unified Japan. You can find this on pages 270 to 273 in the textbook. The question you should be thinking about, how did powerful military leaders unify Japan? 3 strong military leaders united Japan. They did so by ending the fighting between rival daimyo. The first of these leaders was a daimyo named Oda Nobunaga. His soldiers were the first Japanese army to use guns in battle. He won control of nearly half of Japan by wars and agreements with rivals. His best general, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, succeeded him. Hideyoshi used force and political alliances to gain control of the rest of Japan.
Wars for control of Japan broke out among Hideyoshi's generals when he died. Tokugawa Ieyasu won the wars and became shogun. Members of his family ruled Japan for 250 years. The rule of Ieyasu and others in the Tokugawa family is called the Tokugawa Shogunate.
Japan was building ties with Europe when Ieyasu became shogun. Traders and missionaries had brought Western ideas and goods. The Tokugawa shoguns feared these foreign influences might change Japan, so they banned Christianity and all foreigners. They also ended nearly all foreign trade. They even would not let Japanese leave Japan. By the mid-1600s, Japan had become isolated or separated from the world. This isolation lasted 2 centuries. The question you guys should be able to answer right now: what was the result of the struggle to unite Japan?
Okay, all right, and back at the vocabulary terms, you guys, you know you're going to end up having that podcast quiz. The terms, one more time, are daimyo, samurai, vassal, shogun, and Tokugawa shogunate. All right, so be ready to go for that podcast quiz tomorrow, you guys. All right, I think Mr. Creighton, I nailed it.
Yeah, that's a game over for me.